Chaitanyamayi Satyamayi Parame Anandamayi Chaitanyamayi Satyamayi Parame Anandamayi Chaitanyamayi Satyamayi Parame Satyamayi Parame Satyamayi Parame Satyam Jnanam Satyam Jnanam Jyotir Aravinda Satyam Jnanam Satyam Jnanam Jyotir Aravinda Satyam Jnanam Satyam Jnanam Jyotir Aravinda Jyotir Aravinda Jyotir Aravinda. So I find it more than a coincidence that our topic is competition and beyond on the day of Dashera, because Dashera is the day, of course, the Asura is killed. But let's understand what is an Asura actually. We think Asura is somebody who's absolutely evil, but that's a very superficial understanding of an Asura. The real Asura is somebody who has a very, very magnified ego. So it could be a person who does a lot of good deeds, but if those good deeds are coming from a space of, look at me, I did good, praise me. That's what Ravan was. Ravan was known for his generosity. He was known for his dexterity and skill. He was a very conscious, accomplished being. But what was his pitfall? He wanted to use all his gifts to aggrandize himself. And that's the difference between a Deva and an Asura. Both are highly gifted beings, but a Deva uses his gift to do good for the rest of the cosmos. And Asura uses his gifts to do good only so long as people will praise him for it. He's not interested in doing good if he's not getting credit for it. So in that sense, all of us have a bit of the Deva inside us and a bit of the Asura inside us. And the Asura inside us is that thing inside us. Ego is basically the desire to be seen, isn't it? To be seen by others in a very generic way is the ego sense. And to be seen as best by others is a very, very magnified ego sense. I want to be seen as best, I want to be appreciated as best, and everything else is a corollary of it. If I'm Not if others are seen as better than me, I'm shrinking. I feel something wrong is done to me if others are seen as better than me, isn't it? So that's basically the genesis of the asura inside us. So every time we go beyond that, and a lot of mothers' work is to take us beyond our sense of I, the ignorance of this ego which wants to be seen, which wants to assert itself as its best, isn't it? So in a way, when the Shera mother's killing the demon is, of course it's a cliche, but a well-known cliche, not outside us. It's our own urge to crush others, to go ahead, to wish others are less than us. All that is the asura inside us. So sometimes the most beautiful truths I find are in stories. So I've got this beautiful story. It's about a caterpillar pillar, okay? So we all know a caterpillar is a symbol of ignorance and a butterfly is a symbol of enlightenment and wisdom. So this little story is talking about caterpillar pillars, where caterpillars are crawling over each other to get to the top. So though it's a fiction, it's a very real metaphor for how we live our lives and the possibility of how we could live our lives otherwise. It's called Hope for the Flowers. Once upon a time, a tiny striped caterpillar burst from the egg which had been home for so long. "Hello world," he said. "It sure is bright out here in the sun. I'm hungry," he thought, and straightaway began to eat the leaf he was born on. And he ate another leaf and another, and got bigger and bigger and bigger until he stopped eating and thought, there must be more to life than just eating and getting bigger. It's getting dull. So this represents the part of our life where we are happy to just fool around, have fun, whatever, but after a point we get bored of it. We are looking for a purpose. He was seeking more. Then one day, Stripe saw some scrollers really crawling. He looked around for their goal and saw a great column rising high into the air. When he joined them, he discovered the column was a pile of squirming, pushing caterpillars. A caterpillar pillar. It appeared that the caterpillars were trying to reach the top, but the top was so lost in the clouds that Stripe had no idea what was there. He felt new excitement like sap rising in the spring. Maybe I'll find out what I'm looking for. So do you understand, this column has no support? It's just got the caterpillars climbing over it. There's no stick or there's nothing. Full of agitation, Stripe asked a fellow crawler, "Do you know what's happening?" "I just arrived myself," said the other. "Nobody has time to explain. They are so busy trying to get wherever they are going up there." "But what's at the top?" continued Stripe. "No one knows that either. But it must be awfully good because everybody is rushing to get there. Goodbye, I have no more time." He plunged into the pile. Stripe's head was bursting with the new drive. He couldn't get his thoughts together. Every second, another crawler passed him and disappeared into the pillar. There's only one thing to do. He pushed himself in. So what is this caterpillar column representative of in our life? Come on. Huh? Sorry?
I was saying bandwagon.
Bandwagon?
Everybody does it, so you do.
Bandwagon, rat race, the corporate ladder, where you think about it, for those of us who want to climb it. Why do we climb it? Because we've seen our uncles climb it, and so climb it, and so climb it. And everyone tells us that once you earn this 6-7 figure salary, once you have your dream house, once you have this position, you'll be happy. But we really don't know what's at the top, right? Just like this caterpillar column. And just because everyone's climbing on each other, you just join in and do it. Even if you're not in the corporate, any field you're in, It's a conditioning that you have to be the best. And if any colleague does better than you, a very rare person will feel good about it. Most of the times you'll feel, why not me? Why him? So that's the caterpillar column we are all climbing. The first moments on the pile were a shock. Stripe was pushed and kicked and stepped on from every direction. It was climb or be climbed. Stripe climbed. No more fellow caterpillars on Stripe's pile. They only became threats and obstacles which he turned into steps and opportunities. That's what our colleagues become at one point, steps as threats and obstacles which we turn into steps and opportunities. This single-minded approach really helped, and Stripe felt he was getting much higher. But some days it seemed he could manage only to keep his place. It was especially when the anxious shadow nagged inside. What's at the top? It whispered. Where are we going? On one exasperated day, Stripe could stand it and couldn't stand it any longer, and actually yelled back, I don't know, and there's no time to think about it. A little yellow caterpillar he saw crawling gasped, What did you say? I was just talking to myself, Stripe mumbled. It really isn't important. I was just wondering where we were going. You know, Yellow said, I was wondering that myself. But since there's no way to find out, I decided it wasn't important. She blushed at how silly this sounded, quickly adding, No one else seems to worry about where we are going, so it must be good. But she blushed again. How far are we from the top? Stripe answered gravely. Sorry. So Stripe answered gravely. One sec, I'll find it. You know, Yellow said, I was wondering that myself, but since there is no way to find out, I decided it wasn't important. She blushed at how silly this sounded, quickly adding, No one else seems to worry about where we are going, so it must be good. But she blushed again. How far are we from the top? Stripe answered gravely. Since we are not at the bottom and not at the top, we must be in the middle. Oh, said Yellow, and they both began climbing again. But now Stripe had a new feeling. He felt bad. He had lost single-mindedness. How can I step on someone he just talked to? Because after having this conversation with Yellow, once Yellow was in the way and he pushed her down also. And there was something in the way, and this happens to us when we are too caught up in the rat race. We sometimes end up hurting people we love also, because it's like something else takes us over. Stripe avoided Yellow as much as possible, but one day there she was blocking the only way up. Well, I guess it's you or me, he said, and stepped squarely on her head. Something in the way Yellow looked at him made him feel just awful about himself. Like, no matter what is up there, it just isn't worth it. Stripe crawled off Yellow and whispered, I'm sorry. And Yellow began to cry. I could stand this life hoping in what was ahead until I met you talking to yourself that day. Since then, my heart hasn't been in it. But I don't know what to do. I didn't know how badly I felt about this life until now. Now, when you look at me so kindly, I know for sure I don't like this life. I just want to do something like crawl and nibble grass with you. So they both finally decided to get off the caterpillar pillar. I'm skipping some parts. And for a while they were very happy being together, nibbling grass, but Stripe kept thinking, what's at the top? And he couldn't get it out of his head. And he said, did I do wrong? Because he kept seeing the caterpillar pillar, and he kept thinking, if I'd held on, I'd have reached the top. Then I would have found something there. This is like so many times we want to leave the corporate, and after leaving it also we feel, arey, but if I'd stayed, what would I have found at the top? That thought keeps coming back to us. So finally he told Yellow, I can't get the pillar out of my head. And Yellow said, I don't know why, but I'm convinced I don't want to go back. So Yellow and Stripe parted. Yellow stayed back and Stripe jumped back into the pillar. Yellow was so Yellow climbed back into the pillar, and the top remained clouded. One day at the pillar, 3 thuds startled Stripe. 3 big caterpillars had fallen from some place and smashed. 2 seemed dead, but one still wiggled. Stripe whispered, what happened? Can I help? He just made out a few words. The top, they'll see, butterflies alone. The caterpillar died. He just said, the top, they'll see, butterflies alone. Now coming back to Yellow, Yellow was desolate without Stripe. She crawled daily to the pile looking for him and returned home at night sad, but half relieved she never saw him again. If she had, she feared she might plunge after him, knowing that she shouldn't. She felt like doing something, anything, rather than this uncertain waiting. What in the world do I really want? She sighed. It seems different every few minutes. Rings a bell? We all feel like that, no? It seems something different every few minutes. But I know there must be more. Finally, she became numb and wandered away from everything familiar. One day, a grey-haired caterpillar hanging upside down on the branch surprised her. He seemed caught in some hairy stuff. You seem in trouble, she said. Can I help? No, my dear. I have to do this to become a butterfly. Her whole insides leapt. Butterfly, that word, she thought. Tell me, sir, what is a butterfly? See, she doesn't know what's a butterfly, but at the very sound of a butterfly, her whole being leapt. Like, you may not know what Brahman is, but the very first time you hear discourses on it, something in you recognizes the truth in it and feels a stirring. So caterpillar felt this stirring at the very mention of the word butterfly. Tell me, sir, what is a butterfly? It's what you're meant to become. It flies with beautiful wings and joins earth to heaven. It drinks only nectar from the flowers and carries the seeds of love from one flower to another. Without butterflies, the world would soon have few flowers. Such a magical creature, no, and such a wonderful job. So much better than climbing over each other to reach the top. It can't be true, gasped Yellow. How can I believe there's a butterfly inside you or me when all I see is a fuzzy worm? How does one become a butterfly? She asked pensively. You must want to fly so much that you are willing to give up being a caterpillar. You must want to fly so much that you are willing to give up being a caterpillar. You mean to die? Asked Yellow, remembering the 3 who fell out of the sky. Yes and no, he said. What looks like you will die, but what's really you will still live. Life is changed, not taken away. Isn't that different from those who die without ever becoming butterflies? And if I decide to become a butterfly, said Yellow hesitantly, what would I do? Watch me, I'm making a cocoon. It looks like I'm hiding, I know, but a cocoon is no escape. It's an in-between house where change takes place. It's a big step since you can never return to caterpillar life. Once you're a butterfly, it's over, it's done. During that change, it will seem to you or to anyone who might peek that nothing is happening, but the butterfly is already becoming. It just takes time. And there's something else. Once you're a butterfly, you can really love. The kind of love that makes new life. It's better than all the hugging caterpillars can do. So beautiful. Caterpillar love is about hugging, it's about pleasure. But butterfly love is the real love, the love that embraces, the love that makes flowers blossom. Oh, let me go and get Stripe, Yellow said. But sadly, she knew he was too far into the pile to possibly reach. Don't be sad, said her new friend. If you can change, you can fly, and show him how beautiful butterflies are. Maybe he will want to become a butterfly too. Yellow was torn in anguish. What if Stripe comes back and I'm not there? What if he doesn't recognize my new self? Suppose he decides to stay a caterpillar. At least we can do some things as caterpillars. We can crawl and eat. We can love in some way too. How can two cocoons get together at all? How awful to get. So these are all the fears that stop us from making the plunge, no? I'm not saying all of us should leave and go away to Pondi, not at all. We have our place here. But I do know young students of mine who've quit very lucrative corporate jobs and have just decided to go to Pondi. And I saw this turmoil inside them for a long time, that what if this happened? And finally when they go there, at least the ones I know, I'm sure there must be sad stories there also, but the ones I know, it's so beautiful to see how they are blossoming there. But it's not that they didn't go through these questions and these turmoils and how will it go. What did she have to go on? Seeing another caterpillar who believed enough to make his own cocoon, and that peculiar hope which had kept her off the pillar and leapt within her when she heard about butterflies. The grey-haired caterpillar continued to cover himself with silky threads. As he wove the last bit around his head, he called, "You'll be a beautiful butterfly. We are all waiting for you." And Yellow decided to take the risk. For courage, she hung right behind the other cocoon and began to spin her own. Imagine, I didn't even know I could do this. She didn't even know she knew how to spin a cocoon. That's some encouragement that I'm on the right track. If I have inside me the stuff to make cocoons, maybe the stuff of butterflies is there too. Now we come to Stripe. Stripe had done well, but when the light finally filtered down from the top, he was close to exhaustion. At this height, there was almost no movement. He's gone up very high, and at that height, if you make unnecessary movement, you slip down. So at that height, there was almost no movement. All held their positions with every skill a lifetime of climbing had taught them. That's how it is at the top of the corporate ladder, right? To maintain the top, you have to use every manipulative skill, every trick in the book to maintain your position there. Every small move counted terribly. There was no communication, only the outside's touch. They were like cocoons to one another. Then one day, Stripe heard a crawler above him saying, "None of us can get any higher without getting rid of them." See, that's how it is. At the corporate, at a certain point, they want to get rid of anyone who's a threat. Soon after, he felt tremendous pressure and shaking. Then came screams and falling bodies. Then silence. Lots more light and less weight from above. Stripe felt awful with this new knowledge. The mystery of the pillar was clearing. He now knew what happened to the three caterpillars. What had happened to them? The three who died saying on top, butterflies alone? They had been pushed down because people couldn't get. Now he now knew what must always happen on the pillar. Frustration surged through Stripe. But as he was agreeing this was the only way up, he heard a tiny whisper from the top, "There's nothing here at all." It was answered by another, "Quiet fool, they'll hear you down the pillar. We are where they want to get. That's what's here." Stripe felt frozen. Can you understand? At the top of the pillar, there's nothing, because the pillar itself is made up. Think about it. A person who gets really to the top by climbing over each other, over other people, what has he got? He's got a position, but that position has no ontological reality, no? It's just a label, it's a recognition in people's head. But what is it beyond that? And I'm not saying everyone at the top is like that. There are people like Ratan Tata who reach the top by being butterflies. Look at his life, how much good he's done. I'm not saying we mustn't rise, but not the way of the caterpillars. When you rise like a butterfly, you go to a much greater height anyways. So, Stripe became angry as well as frustrated. "My pillar," he moaned, "only one of the thousands." So from that height, he could see that there wasn't just one caterpillar pillar. There were millions of caterpillar pillars everywhere. He thought it was just one to climb to, but everywhere there were caterpillar pillars. Only one of the thousands, millions of caterpillars climbing nowhere. Something is really wrong. But what else is there? His life with yellow seemed so far away. That wasn't it either, quite enough. Not quite. Yellow, he let her image fill his being. You knew something, didn't you? Was it courage to wait? Maybe she was right. I wish I were with her. I could go down, he thought. I'd look ridiculous, but it's better than what's happening here. But Stripe's thought was interrupted by bursts of movements all over his level. Each seemed to be making the last effort to find some entry to the top. But with every push, the top layer tightened. Finally, one caterpillar gasped, "Unless we try together, nobody will reach the top. Maybe we give one big push. They can't hold us down forever." But before they could act, there were cries and commotion of another kind. Stripe struggled to the edge to see the cause. A brilliant yellow winged creature was circling the pillar. Who was this? Yellow. She had become a butterfly, moving freely, a wonderful sight. How did it get so high without climbing? When Stripe poked out his head, the creature seemed to recognize him. It extended its legs and tried to grab him. Stripe caught himself just before being pulled out of the pile. The brilliant creature let go, looking sadly into his eyes. She wants to pull him out, but he wants to stay in the caterpillar pillar. The butterfly is like mother, no? She wants to pull us out, but we are too afraid. We keep holding on to our smallness. The brilliant creature let go and looked sadly into his eyes. That look activated excitement Stripe hadn't felt since he first saw the pillar. Words from the past returned. Butterflies alone. Is this a butterfly, and what did it mean? The top, they'll see. It was all so strange, and yet like it was supposed to be. And those eyes and the look of yellow, could it be? He thought he recognized yellow in the butterfly. Such impossible thoughts. Yet the excitement inside wouldn't stop. He grew happy. Somehow he could escape. He could be carried away. But as this possibility became real, something else grew inside. He felt he shouldn't escape like this. Looking into the creature's eyes, he could hardly bear the love he saw there. He felt unworthy. He wanted to change to make up for all the time he had refused to look at the other. He tried to tell her what he felt. He stopped struggling. The other stared at him as though he was mad. He turned around and began down the pillar. This time he didn't curl up. He stretched out full length and looked into the eyes of each caterpillar. I've been up there, there's nothing there, he tried to tell them. Most paid no attention, they were too intent on climbing. One said he saw grapes, he's bitter. I bet he never made it to the top, but some were shocked and even stopped climbing to hear him better. One of these whispered in anguish, don't say it even if it's true. What else can he do? Stripe's answer shocked them all, including himself. We can fly, we can become butterflies. There's nothing at the top and it doesn't matter. As he heard his own message, he realized how he had misread the instinct to get high. To get to the top, he must fly, not climb. Such a beautiful line. To get to the top, we must fly, not climb. Stripe looked at each caterpillar, intoxicated with joy, and that there could be a butterfly inside. But the reaction was worse than before. He saw fear in their eyes. They didn't stop to listen or speak. This happy, glorious news was too much to take, too good to be true. And if it wasn't true, the hope that lit up the pillar dimmed. All seemed confused and unreal. The way down was so immensely long. The vision of the butterfly faded, doubt flooded Stripe. The pile took on an horrible dimension. He struggled on, barely, blindly. It seemed wrong to give up believing, yet believing seemed impossible. Our life on earth is, so again it's an oscillation between doubt and faith. But finally he comes down, tired and sad. Stripe crawled off to the old place where Yellow and he had romped. She was not there and he was too exhausted to go further. He curled up and fell asleep. When he finally woke, he found the yellow creature fanning him with wings of light. Is this a dream, he wondered, but the dream creature acted awfully real. She stroked him with her feelers and most of all looked at him lovingly, that he had began to trust that what he had said about being a butterfly may be true. She walked a little distance away and flew back. She repeated it as if he should follow, so he did. They came to a branch from which hung 2 torn sacks. The creature kept on inserting her head, then tail into one of them. Then she would fly to him and touch him, as if she's showing him the way into the cocoon, how mother sometimes guides us, showing us where to go. Her feelers quivered and Stripe knew she was speaking. He couldn't make out words. Then slowly he seemed to understand. Somehow he knew what to do. Stripe climbed again, but this time not into the pillar, into the cocoon. It got darker and darker and he was afraid. He felt he had to let go of everything. And Yellow waited until one day. So that's the end of the story. But that really is a story of all of us, how in some way we are all climbing our made up caterpillar pillars, right? Whether it's the corporate ladder, whether it's the social ladder, whether it's the popularity ladder, whether it's in relationship where you want to be the most loved, whatever. But we all have our caterpillar columns we are climbing over, and sometimes blinded by our asuric need to be best, we do push others back, we do hurt them. But it's so beautiful to know that you don't have to demolish yourself, you don't have to be humble to a point of nothingness, that you can flower into a butterfly. And if you flower into a butterfly, the whole world is your top, right? You can fly wherever you like and nobody stands in your way. The whole world helps you to fly, the air, the flowers, everything. So it's all a journey from becoming the asuric caterpillar. Caterpillars aren't asuric, but just for this story, the one who wants to climb over others to reach the top, to being a butterfly who flies and helps everyone. And when you're a butterfly, see, there was a butterfly who urged Yellow to become another butterfly. Yellow urged Stripe. When you're a butterfly, instead of pushing people down, you have an urge to make others as beautiful as you. You've tasted beauty, you want others to taste beauty, and you get joy in seeing them fly just like you. And it's a much richer way. We feel that if we don't go ahead of others, if somebody else gets more, I'll get less, as if goodness and success is a limited commodity. But it's not really so. Last time I had shared with you about this student of mine in the ICSE board, right? This time I've actually got her experience in her own words. Okay, so I'm going to read it out to you. So she's one person who really chose to be a butterfly and fly over being a caterpillar climbing. And she had far more success than if she'd remain a caterpillar. So it's not that you lose anything, you just gain. So she said, I never thought of topping the school. In fact, the thought that I would get in what I would get in the ICSE never bothered me. This isn't because I'm a saint who doesn't compare myself with anyone, but rather because I was comparing myself with everyone. I had taken it as a fact that I wasn't going to be a part of the top 3 or top 10 in the school. I heard how hard everyone was working, how much. Now apply it to your field. This is a school exam, whatever you're competing for. I heard how hard everyone was working, how much portion they had covered, how brilliantly all my classmates did in mock tests, and comparing it with where I was, I thought I was nowhere even in the league. The problem with our mindset is that we confuse excellence with winning. This is beautiful. We confuse excellence with winning. And this is a 14-year-old writing from her own wisdom, 15 maybe. As if the only way to do something well is by outdoing others. We measure our value by how many people we've beaten in any field. My negative belief of not being good enough proved to be a hurdle for me because I never pushed my limits, because I knew I wasn't going to win. So what was the point in even trying? That's how some of us are. We feel so defeated we don't only try, which is also shortchanging ourselves. It's not the right way to be. I studied as hard as I could nonetheless, and over time, when I was able to do things I couldn't do before, solve sums that I really didn't understand before, I felt really happy. That's when I realized that it didn't matter what anyone else was doing, but the fact that I was able to improve my own set of skills and do better than I could yesterday. With that ambition, I was motivated to push harder, and my aim shifted towards competing with myself, outdoing myself. Maybe a little less than a month before the exams, I started practicing metta towards myself to calm me down and be more positive about the near future. This definitely did help me further getting over comparing myself. Metta is just the Buddhist way of sending goodwill. May you be well, may you be happy, may you be peaceful. Comparing myself with others and competing because of the realization that we are all entitled to be content by reaching our own potential, forging our own path and developing our own pace. While practicing metta, it hit me that all my classmates must have felt the same thing that I did before, that they weren't good enough, or that they were just being consumed by the stress of it all. Since I could resonate with them, now they weren't just threats who she had to climb off. They were fellow beings who shared feelings of inadequacy and defeat with her. Since I could resonate with them, I wanted them to come to the same conclusion as me. And I began sending each of my classmates metta too, remembering each name and face every day, regardless of what relationship I shared with the person. So the very person who could get better marks than her, who could threaten her, whatever, she started wishing them well. I understood that everyone was competing in this rat race, feeling that they weren't good enough like I did. But there isn't a single person that can be better at being you than yourself. I really do hope this can convey what I felt, because when you asked me, this is it, I'm not reading the rest. So finally, this girl came third in the board with a very high 90%, and all her life she hadn't even come among the top 10. So it just proves to you that when you become a butterfly, it's not that you don't succeed. Mother wants us to succeed. Her whole thing is about bringing the perfection of spirit into material life, but not the usual rat race way. She wants us to succeed like butterflies succeed, by climbing higher. So that's what this story proved to me, that just by wishing people ill will, by being jealous of them, by competing with them, that's not the only way to climb. There's a far better way to climb. And the next piece here talks about an experiment that the Dalai Lama conducted, where we do know that the Dalai Lama gets his monks to go to neuroscientists, and he maps how different areas of their brains light up. So there is a particular area of your brain which lights up when you feel very, very happy. So he got one set of monks to meditate in ways that they completely silence their mind. Now when you silence your mind, of course your mind's going to be happy, so that area lit up. And he got another set of monks who were adepts at metta, wishing people well, to practice metta intensely, and that same area which lights up when you're happy lit up much more than even silencing the mind. One would think that a state of samadhi where your mind is completely quiet creates the bliss you're looking for, but science actually told you that when you're actually wishing others well, your happiness quotient goes up even more than that. So all of us can identify that bit of the asura inside us, right, which wants to climb over others, be it in family, be it in friends, be it at work, be it at people we are competing with. That little something in us which wants to be better than them. But can we really reconcile to the fact that in this whole universe there's only one me, and I have an instrument to play which is unique to me? That's how kind the universe is. It creates a design where each one is made unique, and each one has an instrument unique to themselves to play in life. So nobody else can play it. Nobody else can play the role I can play, right? So to feel somebody else will take my thunder, they can't. They can't play my instrument as well as I can. And if I want to snatch somebody's instrument and play it, I'll never play it as well as they can, right? Now to give you an example close to home, all my best friends are yoga teachers. Now if I'm going to compete with them, and I would spoil my friendship, right? But I do know that the yoga I teach, the people who come to me have a flavor for the yoga I teach. The people who go to them, and they are very accomplished yoga teachers, they have a flavor for the yoga they teach. I can't snatch away anything from them, and they can't snatch anything away from me. And in fact, in collaborating with each other, for example, I don't teach prenatal because I feel you should teach what you've gone through. I never have children, so I have taught prenatal yoga, but I feel if you've done yoga when you're pregnant, you'll teach it the best. So by and large, if somebody comes to me for prenatal yoga, though I can teach it, I know my colleague will teach it better. So I'll send usually the person to her. Or if I specialize at something, she'll send to me. So it's such a beautiful collaboration. Why does everything have to be fight and kill and be the best? There is no best. You can only be best at being you. And nobody can snatch that thunder away from you. That's an illusion in your mind. So what Divya did, very simple practice, but which made her come among the top 3. Let's all practice together. So sit tall, rising spine, open heart, relax shoulders, and gently pull your awareness into your heart space. Now first, see yourself with all your shortfalls, all your strengths, the package deal that you are, unique from everyone else. So unique that you can never be better than others, and you can neither be worse than others. You can never be universally best. You can only be best at being you. So there's a beautiful line in a song I teach children, Pachamama. The line goes, there's no high, there's no low, there's nowhere I should go, just inside a little star, telling me, be as you are. Just inside a little star, telling me, be as you are. Shine as you are in the role that you're uniquely meant to play. Give up inadequacy seeing the roles others are playing. They are meant to play that role. You are playing your role, and that is more than enough. And celebrating your own uniqueness, sending loving kindness or metta to yourself. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. See an image of yourself in your happy place and keep sending yourself the metta. One last time on your own, these 4 sentences ending in well, happy, peaceful and free. Now think of your competitors in your field, whether it's social, whether it's family, somebody you're competing with for somebody's affection, work-wise of course, whoever is your competitor, and actually bring each one up in your mind and be bold enough to send them metta. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free. There's plenty of place in the universe for both of us to shine uniquely. There's plenty of place for goodness in the world. Your shine doesn't diminish mine. That's just my conditioning. Sometimes we can shine in a way that our shine enhances each other's shine. It's possible. And one more time, send your competitor metta. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free. And one last time. Let me convince myself down to cellular intelligence that nothing's being subtracted from me when this person shines. What's mine will know my face and come to me. What's that person will know that person's face and go to them. Mother's in charge of everything. Let me release the tendency to tighten and get upset when that person succeeds. And then try one more time. May you be well. To your competitor, may you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free. How beautiful if I can be that butterfly which feels happy to see another butterfly fly. But to do that, I have to become a butterfly first. If I'm a crawler, I'll always resent others getting high. But to the extent that I grow to my butterfly self and set myself free, I'll want to set others free also. And then slowly open your eyes. So was it difficult to wish your competitors metta, or was not difficult? It wasn't difficult, but it might have been difficult for some of us. But keep trying. See, being competitive, we worked very hard at and we've become good at it. So work as hard as the other thing and you'll become good at that also. So now we come to why is humility the most difficult virtue to cultivate. Sri Aurobindo says humility goes against our very grain and involves self-effacement. Evolutionary movement is about individualization. Hence, generosity is difficult because the natural tendency is to keep everything to myself, right? When I'm a caterpillar, anything good that comes, I want to keep it to myself. Because if I give it to others, others will go ahead of me. So generosity sometimes goes against our very grain. Generosity and humility. Humility requires an intuitive understanding of the fact that I'm not even there. We've discussed this last time, right? What I call I is just a mental construct. I'm not even there. We all are convinced we exist with a history and a story. Without silence of being, it is not possible to come to humility. Most of the noise we live with is the noise of the personality. We are full of ourselves. I need to be very quiet to know that I'm not even there. Then I'll be humble. Then I'll be generous. But the more I'm involved with the ego, the more I'm moving towards the asura in me. I'm a blend of the asura and the deva, right? So I could be a great do-gooder, but if I'm doing good with this big ego that I'm the only one, that's what Mother writes in one of her writings. She was saying that the tragedy is everyone here wants to do good, but wants to be the only one doing good. If they see others doing good and getting credit for it, they get all uptight, and that is spoiling my work. She said that again and again. I wish they just allowed everyone to do their thing rather than just spoiling my work by wanting me to be the only one to do good. And if that's the case, stop doing good, because it's interfering with your sadhana much more. Because a philanthropist's ego, a spiritual ego, is much more difficult to conquer than a normal vital ego. So now we come to Savitri. This is a passage from House of New Creation, the supramental world, what the human consciousness will be like in that world. In a rapturous multiplication sum, the recurring decimals of eternity, none was apart, none lived for himself alone. In the caterpillar world, everyone's living for themselves only, but in the butterfly world, none lived for themselves. The butterfly is living for other butterflies, for flowers. Each is seeing how it can help the whole. Like a little bit of that butterfly world arose in Divya, right? When imagine this child's wisdom at 15, every day before studying, she would bring up each of the 35 classmates in her mind and send them metta and wish them well. And what was the reward? She did unprecedentedly well herself. She didn't do it for that purpose, but she just did. None was apart, none lived for himself alone. Each lived for God in him and God in all. Each soulness inexpressibly held the whole. Their oneness was not tied to monotone. Monotone is one color. We think oneness is one color. But in that world, oneness was many colored. It showed 1,000 aspects of itself. Its calm, immutable stability upbore on a changeless ground forever safe. So there was an underlying oneness which allowed zillion changes to occur without feeling threatened. So it was safe, a bore on a changeless ground forever safe, compelled to a spontaneous servitude, the ever-changing incalculable steps, the seeming reckless dance's subtle plan of immense world forces in their perfect play. Appearance looked back to its hidden truth and made of difference oneness's smiling play. So beautiful. Appearance, the way we appear, if appearance doesn't look back on its hidden truth, what happens? It becomes all important. We want to appear well in people's minds, right? But appearance looked back on its hidden truth. It recognized that I'm not this appearance, I am this essence, and that's my sanctuary. And if I have that sanctuary, I really don't care how each mind perceives my appearance. So, as I was saying in today morning's yoga class, the more you're connected to the sanctuary inside you, the less vulnerable you are to what people think about you, isn't it? There are some people who are so self-contained that they don't get very sort of excited by flattery. They don't get really shrunken by criticism because they are not drawing their life spring from either. They have a sanctuary inside them. What I mean is the butterfly inside them, which all of us have. But these are people who found inroads to this sanctuary. So they are so anchored and grounded in that they are not really needy people. They are not attached people, they are not needy people. They are not too bothered whether you pay them attention or not, because what they want, they are sourcing from themselves. So that is what this means when it says, appearance looked back to its hidden truth and made of difference oneness's smiling play. It made all persons fractions of the unique, yet all were being secret integers. All struggle was turned to a sweet strife of love in the harmonized circle of a sure embrace. All struggle was turned to a sweet strife of love, not a struggle of competition. See, here we are struggling how to go ahead of others. In that world, the struggle was how can we bring out the best in each other. Such a beautiful struggle, no? Collaboration rather than competition. We talk about it, but how little we live it. In the harmonized circle of a sure embrace, identity's reconciling happiness gave a rich security to difference. So, if Shobha is different from me, I don't feel threatened by her shining, because in that world I recognize I'm one with her. I recognize that I am also shining through her. So identities reconciling, what is reconcile? Which makes peace between two things. So I'm different from her in appearance, but I know I'm one with her in essence. So I'm secure. Even if she shines, it doesn't make me insecure. Identities reconciling happiness gave a rich security to difference. On a meeting line of hazardous extremes, the game of games was played to its breaking point, where through self-finding by divine self-loss, you've lost your butterfly self, you've lost your your sense of I, but you found your butterfly self. You've lost your caterpillar self, but you found your butterfly self, where through self-finding by divine self-loss, there leaps out of unity's supreme delight, whose blissful undivided sweetness feels a communality of the absolute. There was no sob of suffering anywhere. See, whenever you suffer, be sure there's some pocket of ignorance, because when you widen into the truth of what you are, it's impossible to suffer. And on our way, the more we are widening into the truth, the more immune we get to human suffering. That's the acid test. There was no sob of suffering anywhere. Experience ran from point to point of joy. Bliss was the pure, undying truth of things. All nature was a conscious front of God. A wisdom worked in all, self-moved, self-sure, a plenitude of illimitable light, an authenticity of intuitive truth, a glory and passion of creative force. So we stop here, but let's just summarize our take home from the class. Our whole conditioning, right from the time we were in kindergarten, has made us competitive, right? You go in to give your test for a school, and if you come out saying, I couldn't answer that question, your mother cries. You see another child whose mother laughs. Right from that 4-year-old, you're taught that if you don't, you're not better than others, you're no good. But this is such an artificial structure, which is why in integral education, mother did away with tests, because the whole system of testing children is asuric. It's implanting this feeling of competition and need to be better, need to be worse. In Pandi schools, there are no tests or exams, which is so beautiful. And each child is allowed to pursue, the child chooses their own subject, the child chooses their own teachers also. And the teacher hone the child to pursue whatever the project the child wants to pursue. So the best in each child comes out. If I want to study underwater life, I'll have full permission from the school and support to study that. If I want to study astrology, I'll have full support to do that. And a child who's studying marine life will not be compared to a child who's doing astrology. It's absurd, no? This child has this uniqueness to shine in. That child has that uniqueness to shine in. It's absurd to compare the two. But this absurdity we are doing in the schools all the time and churning out damaged children all the time. But all we can do at this point is damage control. At some point, hopefully things will change. But at least let's do damage control for ourselves. This competitive streak, which has been so deeply ingrained into us, whenever it shows itself to us, at least let's work on it. Whenever it shows itself to us, our tendency will be to feel jealous, to want to push our competitor back, to want to be ahead of the competitor. But let me remember, that's the caterpillar way. That's the way of climbing the caterpillar pillar. But there's nothing at the top. There's the other way, the butterfly way, which this ex-student felt. So the moment the desire comes to you, my competitor has got this, I wish it goes out of her hand. Why did she get it? And then I'll find things to hate about the competitor to justify my ill will for her. Get rid of all that. Immediately try to be a butterfly. Send yourself metta first and send your competitor metta first. And remind yourself that although your mind is convincing you tooth and nail that this competitor's gain is your loss, it's not so. What's mine will know my face and come to me. If this person has got it, it's that person's due. Be generous and let that person have it. And little by little train yourself to celebrate. Okay, that's a far cry. If you can't celebrate the person's success, at least be at peace about it. At least don't feel life has robbed you in giving the person something. Life cannot rob you. Life is not structured to rob you. Whatever is your instrument, remember, only you can play it. Nobody else can play it as well as you. Let others play their instruments, you play yours, and play it the best you can without needing to compete with anyone. That is the butterfly way of living. Yeah? So let's end with 3 ohms. Ooh.